So by next week, we could very well hear about something pretty impressive, I think, when it comes to Zebec in terms of a new launch. Because the CEO of Zebec, whose name is of course Simon, in a recent podcast that he had with Paul Barron, he explained how next week they're going to be announcing something, and it's actually in collaboration with Stellar. I'll talk about that in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice. However, yeah, you heard that right. It's in regard to Stellar. Zebec's been cooking something behind the scenes with Stellar. So allegedly, I'm just going to kind of paraphrase what Simon said. He said that Stellar and Zebec have now been working together for the past 3 months to develop an enterprise payroll app that runs on the Stellar blockchain, and it's coming next week. Wow. Very impressive right there. I even have to clap my hands because at the same time, if we think about it, this is really impressive. Like, could you imagine? A lot of people thought that, oh, Stellar doesn't really care anymore about Zebec. The partnership was a flop, but not necessarily. Imagine, right? For the past 3 months, they've been working together with Stellar. This is really impressive because, again, they're going to be launching, right, an enterprise payroll app that runs on the Stellar blockchain. We got to take this into consideration. The Stellar blockchain historically is known for being really fast. And Stellar has an aspect of ISO 20022, so does Zebec. And not to mention, Stellar, it's focused on global trade and finance, much like Zebec. But the thing is, Zebec is very focused on payrolls. Stellar, historically, not so much. So this right here, I think, could be such a fantastic collaboration. Now, people like to say, but yeah, who cares about this? Well, arguably, I think a lot of people do. Keep in mind, Zebec has over 100,000 holders. This could matter, in my opinion, just because a lot of people seem to care about what Zebec is doing. Not to mention, if we take a look at it, when it comes to XLM, it is currently ranked 15th in the world in terms of market cap when it comes to this space. So this is no joke. Again, the fact that Zebec, a project that's ranked 114th in terms of market cap, is collaborating with a project that is top 15 in the world, that says something, in my opinion. And if we take a look at Zebec, because it's focused on global trade and finance, having a partnership with Stellar and also Ripple, which it does have, by the way, achieving that right there is like a really big flex. And no, I'm not talking about the Ford Flex, the vehicle. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like an actual flex, because that's really impressive. Like, initially, over a year ago, if someone told me that, hey, you know what, by 2026, Zebec is going to have a partnership with Stellar and Ripple, I probably wouldn't even believe it. Even though I was a fan of Zebec over a year ago, I would have probably thought, seriously? Like, how is that even possible? But you know what, Zebec, they just keep doing things. And again, people like to say, oh, wow, for the past 3 months, Zebec hasn't really been doing anything. But again, for the past 3 months, allegedly, they've been working together with Stellar. So I think sometimes people don't really consider that. They don't always announce everything that they're doing 24/7. Sometimes stuff like this, it goes on behind the scenes, but we don't really hear about it until it's somewhat close or until it's fully launched. So again, when people like to say, oh, Zebec's not doing anything, I really disagree with that. They seem to be doing things behind the scenes. This is really impressive stuff right here. And if we consider being focused on even an enterprise payroll app anyways is pretty fantastic, especially if we consider how it's in collaboration with Stellar. Because one thing we do know, though, is that enterprises oftentimes, they're more familiar with Stellar as opposed to Zebec. That's no surprise, right? Stellar is way more popular. So if we take a look at Zebec, its specialization is payrolls. But when it comes to Stellar, not so much. So it's a great collaboration in my opinion. Stellar, which is really focused on global trade and finance, but not so much when it comes to payrolls. But then a lot of enterprises do know about it. You know, this is the one that moves the needle, right? But Zebec has the actual fundamentals. It's actually really focused on payrolls. So that collaboration kind of makes sense. Something that's not so popular, but more specialized, partnering up and basically joining forces with something that is more popular, but maybe not so specialized when it comes to payrolls, working together and actually having an enterprise payroll app that runs on the Stellar blockchain. It's a big thumbs up for me. I think if anything, this is a pretty amazing start when it comes to Zebec because they just launched the super app this year, the desktop version. We haven't seen the mobile version yet, but apparently it's in the final stages, so it could very well happen soon. We'll wait and see. And also this year, they announced a partnership with Stellar and Ripple. So at the end of the day, really, Zebec, they've been kind of, cooking behind the scenes. if that kind of makes sense. So when people like to say it's cooked, I don't really agree with that. I think if anything, it's cooking, right? It's not cooked, but it's actually cooking a lot of things behind the scenes. And also, it's a no-brainer, Zebec having a partnership with Stellar, because Stellar has the fundamentals. It's more tested, right? The Stellar blockchain is more proven historically. It's just been around for a very long time. But again, I think Stellar, as amazing as they are, they also need to partner up with something that has more of a specialization, like in the case of Zebec, because Stellar, they're really good, but they don't really have the expertise when it comes to payrolls. So that's where Zebec steps in. It's like, for instance, Amazon, it's really massive, right? But if they want to construct a building, they're not suddenly going to become expert contractors. They probably need to hire a contractor. It's kind of no different. Stellar is really massive, but when they want to be focused on payrolls, that's where Zebec steps in. Just because they're massive doesn't mean that they know every single thing, if that kind of makes sense. But yeah, besides that point, so when people like to say, oh, you know, Stellar doesn't need Zebec, well, I disagree. I think if anything, they actually kind of do when it comes to the aspect of payrolls. Now, on the contrary, people like to say, well, if that's the case, then why is Zebec as of right now only worth 25% of a penny? But if anything, one thing I do know for sure, though, is that when it comes to the market cap, it's over 2 times lower than its peak last year. Which really, if we think about it, people like to say, wow, that's really boring. Like, who cares? If it could just recover back to its peak last year, we're just over 2 times lower than that. Who really cares? But I do care, because my kind of perspective is this. If, let's say, you know, I use this example, right? Like my watch, for instance. This is the G-Shock GW5000HS, which I got from Japan. But besides that point, if, let's say, I came in tomorrow and let's say I saw another one of this, wouldn't I be so impressed? I'd be like, oh, wow. I would consider it impressive in that instance, but suddenly when it comes to this space, why is it considered boring? I don't agree with that. If anything, I think it's actually impressive. However, I get it. A lot of people out there, they want to look for the next big thing, or let's say something that is a micro cap that they think could do something fantastic. And sure, when it comes to that, I get it. But at the same time, I'm not looking for that, because first of all, I'm not trying to become the next Jeff Bezos. Second of all, I don't see a need for me to believe in a micro cap. Really, I just don't see why I would want to care about that. That's just my mindset. Now, I'm not speaking on anyone's behalf, but I'm just saying. You know, the other day I saw someone made a post and they were saying, oh, wow, this micro cap right here. And they were kind of thinking that a 300% movement when it comes to that micro cap would be considered really cool and really amazing. But here's the thing. If all I'm looking for is just hypothetically 300% in terms of a movement, many projects out there in the top 100, 200, 300, many of them are down like 2 times lower, and maybe even way more, like let's say 3, 4 times, 5 times lower than where they just were last year or even the year before. So if those type of movements is just what makes me happy, basically, I just see no reason for me to care about a project that's a microcap. For what? I'm all about taking the hypothetical path of least resistance, in a sense where, sure, I could try to make my own shirt, which would be very difficult, or I can just buy one at a store. You know what I mean? Sure, I can try to climb a mountain to melt some ice and get some water, but I can also go to the tap and just get some water. I'm just going to go to the tap. It's the path of least resistance. Me climbing a mountain and stuff like that, trying to melt ice, trying to get water that way, it's like believing in a microcap. I just don't get it. I don't know why I would do that. But yeah, besides the point though, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is just my personal perspective. But again, next week they're planning to announce an enterprise payroll app that runs on the Stellar blockchain, in which they've worked on for the past 3 months with Stellar. So I do find it pretty interesting, and I'll be sure to make an updated video when it comes to that, when they do announce it, or if anything else comes along when it comes to Zebec. So I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day.